Here's Navarro on the run. Navarro's going to keep it. Navarro for 6. Touchdown, Bobcat.
I can feel I had a hard time staying in my own lane.
Oh my goodness!
Brett Murdoch, pick 6. Harvath inside the 30, the 20. Blake Harvath will score.
And Mendoza takes a big hit. He never saw it coming. Trey White got in there.
There's his man, Rucker. And nobody's going to catch him. Goodbye.
Intercepted. Tyree Skipper. Touchdown.
Telly again, why not? A step forward and make it 2 for Telly.
Quarterback keeper showing off the speed. Steps on the gas. Untouched.
The G5 Hive. All G5 all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive Live, where we bring you the G5 college football coverage you love each and every week. I am Justice. I am solo right now. My co-host Luke will be joining us shortly. But thank you guys for all tuning in. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, and a retweet. And if you're listening in podcast form, please rate and review. Well, yeah, we talked a little bit about week 4, but you're ready to jump in to what happened in week 4?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first game is a Friday G5 versus P4 game. And the G5 got the win, man. We talked about this last week. I talked about if Flores was the QB for Oklahoma State, Tulsa had a real shot at winning the game. And Tulsa wins the game, and, like, it should have been worse. Really, the only reason this game was kind of close was because Tulsa kept settling for field goals. They scored on their first 4 drives. They had 1 touchdown, 3 field goals. Their 5th drive right before the half kind of ran out of time, ran out of the clock to score. Then their 6th drive, they had a field goal. So really, like, you know, their first 5 out of their first 6, we don't even include that one, like, because time ran out. Their first full drives, or 5 full drives, they scored. Unfortunately, 4 of them were field goals. Otherwise, this game would have been over early. I got really nervous as I was watching this game because I was like, oh my gosh, like, they're going to lose. Like, in the last, in the 4th quarter, Oklahoma State, had a couple big plays there with the Rodney Fields running the ball. And I was like, oh man, like, this is going to be bad. Like, Tulsa was the better team. They deserved to win the game, and they're going to lose because they had to settle for so many field goals early on. Tulsa really dominated Oklahoma State in the lines. That kind of surprised me a little bit. Both the offensive line and defensive line. I mean, they were opening up some massive holes for Dominic Richardson. And I was like, yeah, Brett, I agree with you, man. I was super impressed with Tulsa. Oklahoma State's not good. I get that, but they're still a P4 team. Tulsa, was not good last year. They're kind of rebuilding. But man, like, Tulsa, in my opinion, Tulsa really dominated this game. Rodney Fields is really the only reason Oklahoma State even had an opportunity to even win. Now, Dominic Richardson, like I said, played phenomenal. He did have a fumble. And that kind of, even though it didn't necessarily lead to Oklahoma State's score at that time, it did kind of seem to kill some momentum that Tulsa had going on. Like I said, Zane Flores is bad. He is really bad. Rodney Fields is really the only bright spot for the Cowboys. There was a point where I guess they were driving to try to tie the game up for the final touchdown, and Flores, like, Rodney Fields was wide open. It was a 4th down play, and, like, Flores just, like, missed him really badly, and that was it. But had he made that completion, Fields would have easily gotten a 1st down, and who knows, Oklahoma State could have gone on to score and sent the game into overtime. Tulsa got the ball back after that. They drove it, and then they missed the 26-yard field goal that would have really iced the game. Unfortunately, you could have put Tulsa up by 10, but they were able to hang on there at the end and get the win. The Hail Mary did not connect for Oklahoma State, and I don't know. I was glad to see it. Like I said, Tulsa was definitely the better team. They deserved the win. And I think if you look at like the advanced metrics, like Tulsa should have really won the game. But they had to settle for so many field goals, and it almost cost them the game actually. So glad to see Tulsa get that big win, and they can claim the Oklahoma champ. They don't play the Sooners this year, but they can, I guess, quasi claim the champions of Oklahoma in 2025. Anything you want to add, Luke?
Nope.
All right.
Let's I'll move over to the Saturday G5 versus P4 games, and we had a barn burner. We have Arkansas at Memphis. Memphis wins this one 32-31. Bad start for Memphis. You got Tyan Rohan Jones. I believe he's either from Canada or at least speaks a lot of French. The broadcast was, they have a whole little segment there about they're talking French, but no one covers him. He's wide open for a 64-yard touchdown catch. Greg DeRosier, he returns. Memphis settles for a field goal on the first drive. They try an onside kick and Arkansas recovers, but the Memphis defense is able to hold them. Arkansas got lots of pressure on Brennan Lewis. Memphis intercepted Taylor Green. Brennan Lewis has a 4-yard touchdown run there in the corner of the right to go up 10-7. Then you have a big Sutton run. He has a 64-yard touchdown run. Arkansas marches right back down the field, but Micah Washington fumbles inside the 10. So that big Lucky Sutton, not Lucky Sutton, the big Sutton touchdown puts them up 32-31. And like I said, Arkansas just moving the ball down the field and then, get right inside the 10. Mike Washington fumbles. Memphis recovers. Memphis holds on for the W.
Yeah, man, it was a good game. I watched the majority of it. I didn't see the very end, but like when Memphis tried that onside kick so early, I'm like, oh man, like I don't know. To me, like when I see things like that, like tells me like they don't think they can win this game without doing things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that concerned me. I was like, oh no, like does the coaching staff not think they really kind of have a shot to win the game because they're trying an onside kick so early? But it ended up working out. I mean, I think for me, like the big takeaway of the game was like Sutton Smith, right? Like we've talked about him, and our waiver. He's not on the waiver wire this week. He's not under 30%, but we've talked about the last 2 weeks, and like, should you be concerned when Greg DeRosier Jr. returns or not? And I think, like, in my opinion, like Sutton Smith solidified. He's the man for Memphis Tigers. Still expect to see Greg DeRosier Jr. Involved, right? He's electric, but I think Sutton Smith has established himself as the top dog in that Memphis offense at running back. All right, this game was not much of a game. Tennessee at UAB. Tennessee wins it 56-24. Tennessee scored 6 touchdowns on their first 7 possessions in the first half. It was 42-7 at halftime. And then, man, like Sherrod Bryant. Luke and I were talking about this earlier. So when we did the UAB Worker Bee series, I don't know when that was, June, July, whatever. We talked about Sherrod Bryant, and we have a clip where we were talking about Sherrod, and both on Instagram and on YouTube today, we got comments about Sherrod Bryant because of what he did in this game. If you happen to miss it, it was very Bush League. He was a total cheap shot. He took on the Tennessee kicker, and it was announced. I don't know. I retweeted it this evening. I don't know when it was actually announced. Sometime today. But safety Sherrod Bryant for UAB. He's been suspended for the next game because of what he did, because of that cheap shot on the Tennessee kicker. Man, that was not good, man. Like, it's bad enough. Like UAB's not, like, defense is horrible. One of the worst defenses in all the G5. And then you got one of your supposedly better players on defense. Total Bush League move. It's not a good look. Not a good look. Not a good look for the team. Not a good look for Trent Dilfer. That Trent Dilfer coach's seat's got to be like.
Well, did you see the other thing that he was catching slack for? He's on the sideline taking a video of being in the stadium. I don't know what exactly he was doing, but at least that's what it looks like from the outside. It was like, what is going on? Eric Froton in the chat. The Hive is buzzing. You bet, Eric. You bet.
It's always buzzing. Every Monday night we're buzzing, buddy. We're buzzing. All right, let's move over to Clint's. What Clint wants to hear about.
The first quarter. We're tied at 7 after 1. All right, Clint, earmuffs for the rest of this. Once Oregon scored their first touchdown in the third, it put them up 28-7. They cruise. We don't need to talk about it any further. Clint's here. We want him to stay for the entire time.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't much of a game, but it was it. With that Hankerson touchdown, would that put them up 7-0, or were they already down when he got that touchdown? I didn't watch the game.
I'm trying to remember, and I don't recall off the top of my head.
Gotcha. Yeah, it wasn't. But anyway, it was. I think was it 14-7 maybe in the first quarter, something like that, and then all downhill after that. All right, going over to another big G5 versus P4 matchup, and that was the Tulane Green Wave versus the Ole Miss Rebels. Luke, you want to take it?
Sure. So I wish Tulane would have brought their big boy pants for this game. Wasn't great. Tulane, yards in the first half, 107 for Tulane and 313 for Ole Miss. It's 23-3 at the half in favor of Ole Miss. They end up winning 45-10. Tulane moved the ball better in the third, but they're turned away on a 4th and goal from the 5 and a 4th and 1 from the 39. Start of the fourth quarter, Brendan Sullivan is in for Retleff. Scores 31-3 at that point. He comes in and he doesn't do much better. Just Tulane really struggled in this one. Graphics are going to stay the same as I move into the next one until Justice gets back here. We've got Washington at Washington State. Washington wins 59-24. Washington scores on all of their first half possessions, 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal. It's 24-10. Washington State possesses the ball 2 times in the third quarter to Washington's 1. They score a touchdown on both, so they inch closer. They're down 31-24 after 3. Now, quarter 4 is where things get a little out of hand. Washington scores a touchdown, followed by a Washington State interception that Washington returns for a 47-yard touchdown. And then the first play of their next possession, Eckhouse fumbles, which Washington scores a touchdown pretty quick. It's 52-24. They tack on another touchdown at the end of the game. They win, like I said, 59-24. Moving over to the BYU at ECU. BYU wins this one 34-13. The first half closed, and the turning point was when ECU muffed a punt with 56 seconds left in the first half. They're at their own 1. Hauser throws an INT, and it's returned 4 yards for a touchdown. It's now 13-3 at the half. That muff punt is just, you're hoping to get some yards or whatnot, but then you're down at the 1. Then you throw this INT. BYU has a 2-play touchdown drive, 2, and they're now up 20-3. ECU gets a field goal in the third, and BYU eats up 5 minutes and scores a touchdown in the fourth to go up 27-6. ECU answers with a touchdown of their own, but BYU ices it with a 41-yard LJ Martin touchdown. Justice,
Yeah.
we are back.
Yeah, man. Yeah, sorry, had to run real quick. Yeah, that ECU game, man. Like I thought ECU might be able to pull off the upset, but unfortunately, no dice there, man. Like, and so they couldn't pull it off. But I mean, I think they played BYU tough. I think a lot of folks expected ECU might pull off that upset or at least cover the spread, but they weren't really able to do either thing. But yeah, maybe it'll give ECU some extra mojo, some momentum as they head into American play. All right, I think that's going to do it for the G5 versus P4 games. Oh no, take that back. Well, we got one more, and that is Cal versus San Diego State. Late night game Saturday. I stayed up and watched it, and man, what a absolutely dominant performance by San Diego State. Man, that defense played phenomenal. One of the best defensive performances I think we've seen so far this year. They blanked Cal. They beat them 35-0. Jordan Napier looked amazing in the game. Lucky Sutton, man, like all the talk I feel like before this game was on the Cal freshman quarterback Jerron Kiava Sagapulutele, and he got yanked. Now the game was out of hand when it happened, but they inserted Devin Brown. Yeah, man, like he threw some picks, and Trey White got his first sack of the 2025 season. So maybe that'll get Trey White back on track. He was one of the top sack producers a year ago in all of college football. I think if Mike Green hadn't done what he'd done last year, I think more folks would have been talking about what Trey White did at San Diego State in 2024. So hopefully getting that sack here in week 4, his first sack, will give him some momentum to get back on track and be able to produce sacks like he did in 2024. But yeah, dominant performance by San Diego State. Sean Lewis, Cal was undefeated up until that game, and San Diego State stomped the mud hole in them. And good to see another big win for the G5 against the P4. All right, that's going to do it for the G5 versus P4 matchups. Next up, we start off with some midweek action. Last week, G5 versus G5. We got Rice at Charlotte. American Conference game. Rice wins this game 28-17. This was really my first time getting like a real solid look at both of these teams in the 2025 season. And Rice, man, I was really interested to kind of see what this triple option offense looked like, and it's a lot of get 3 and 4 yards, 5 yards at a time. But when they need a big play, man, that guy is Quentin Jackson. He's small, but man, he is fast. He is quick. He's a dynamic playmaker for this team. Like I said, the offense was very methodical. I felt like for the most part, except when they would get Jackson involved. And when they would get Quentin Jackson involved, he'd make a big run here and there. Dalen Alexander had a big play too. He's kind of the bigger of the backs, the thumper, if you will, kind of between the tackles and the goal line guy. But he had a big play in the game, a long run. As I mentioned earlier, Connor Harrell got knocked out of the game. He was limping back to the locker room, did not return. Grayson Loftus was the quarterback at that point. And then Ty Morris, he had a pretty vicious sack on Grayson Loftus. It caused a fumble. That fumble was recovered by Rice near the end of the third quarter. And that was a huge play. Ty Morris is a great linebacker for Rice. But that's a huge play because Charlotte was driving. Kind of felt like, maybe Charlotte was a score there. Maybe they had a real shot in the game. So that was a big momentum shift when Ty Morris got that sack, caused that fumble. that Rice recovered. Rice was up 21-9 at that point. That particular drive, Chase Jenkins was knocked out. That was kind of in the beginning of the fourth quarter, I guess. As I mentioned, Drew DeVilliers, he came in for a few plays. Chase Jenkins was able to return. And then Dalen Alexander had that big run for his second touchdown to kind of ice the game. At that point, it gave them a 28-9 lead, and they would go on to win 29-7 for the Rice Owls. And I guess I didn't really know what to expect from either team. I don't think Charlotte's very good this year. And so I'm really not 100% sure what to expect from Rice. But they look good. They got it done. Again, it didn't look, the offense didn't look to me as good as like what I've seen from Navy or even Army this year. I haven't seen Air Force games. So I can't really compare it to that. I think it's going to be fine, but as long as they can, keep getting the ball, like Quentin Jackson's really their only, at least in this game, he was really the only dynamic playmaker they have. And so like if something were to happen to Quentin Jackson, I'd be real worried about this offense, because I think like he adds a different dimension. It makes the offense a bigger threat than if he wasn't there. So anyway. All right, on to the next G5 versus G5 game. And this was these are Saturday games.
All right. So this one we have the UNLV versus Miami football game. This is where I talked about we were maybe struggling to wake up as UNLV gets to Miami of Ohio late. UNLV ends up pulling this one out 41-38. You got Calandria INT. Next play, Miami 39-yard touchdown pass to a wide open Cam Perry. You have Finn to Reynolds touchdown. Miami's up 14-0 pretty quick. Finn throws an INT for a touchdown on a 3rd and long. Now this is where Finn gets hurt. So he's rolling out to the right. He kind of jumps in the air. He's kind of taken out low, kind of right around the knee-ish area. Lands on his shoulder, like head kind of just awkwardly. I would assume it's probably either a neck or a concussion. It didn't look too great, but it was kind of a weird play jumping up. Like I said, he throws an INT for a touchdown. It was about 5 yards short of the intended wide receiver. Momentum's going to UNLV as it's now 13-10, but Henry Henson comes in and marches the ball right down the field for Miami with a 41-yard pass to Cam Perry. And then a few plays later, a 22-yard pass to Kenny Tracy. Tracy, you might know, I guess brother, I think, is in the NFL with the Giants. Tracy, I'm trying to think of his first name.
Tyrone Tracy.
Tyrone Tracy. I believe they're brothers or cousins. I think they're brothers, though. But Tracy, he played really good in that first half. Let's move over to the third quarter. Jet Thomas, welcome to the game. He had 5 yards in the first half. He has a big run and a touchdown to cut the lead to 17-24. Third quarter was all UNLV. Momentum's with them. And then they hit a 23-yard field goal with 15 seconds left to win the game. UNLV just ekes it out. They celebrate with crumble cookies. A whole box of crumble cookies for each row. That's what UNLV got on their way home.
I probably watched most of the first half of this game, and man, like I feel like a broken record. I feel like I've said this in every UNLV game, but they've got to figure out ways to get Jet Thomas the ball more. Like,
dude, I just feel... it was rough that first half. I'm like, what? Why aren't they giving them the ball? Like, it wasn't even like they had somebody else in. They just like weren't giving him the ball. It was like just throwing the ball. It was
yeah. Like I'm thinking, like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, come on, man! Like he is the best offensive weapon you have, and like and you're not getting him the ball.
Believe it or not, Justice, I am not a football coach. I do watch a lot of football, but I would say that
Well, neither of us are, but yeah.
I would say that there are highly trained eyes watching film, watching game tape back. I don't know how no one has seen this yet through this part of the season. This just is baffling to me.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, this is probably the second most baffling thing to me. We'll get to the first eventually. But like you got to get Jet Thomas the ball, man. Like he's the best weapon you have. I mean, Anthony Calandry is fine. He's great. But man, like, could you imagine how much more dangerous he would be if they'd get, Jet Thomas 20, 25 touches a game?
Can you imagine how much more dangerous Boise State would have been last year if they would have never given the ball to Ashton Genty? I mean, they would have just been so much better. Like, what are we doing? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not saying that Jet Thomas is Ashton Genty, but like, it's not hard. Good at football when I get the ball. Like, give the guy the ball.
Yeah. They've got. Again, it baffles me that they don't get him the ball more. But nonetheless, they win the games. And I guess at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. But man, like, they get no points for style on winning. That's 100% sure in my mind, anyway. All right, let's move on to the next G5 versus G5 game, and this ended up being a great game. I caught the first half, and then I came back, and it was like overtime. And North Texas versus Army, American Conference game. North Texas got the win in overtime over Army, and man, like when I came back and it was in overtime, I'm like, what the heck happened? Because like North Texas was dominating this game. Part of that was Army's own fault, but North Texas got a touchdown on their first drive, and like the thing, this is again I watched a lot of football on Saturday, more football than I've watched the entire year combined, just from either being out of town with family or being at Old Dominion home games, etc. And so, when that happens, I don't get to watch a lot, at least on Saturday anyway. And North Texas, they spread the ball around a lot, whether that's with the wide receivers, whether that's with the running backs. They have a lot of guys on offense that are getting a lot of, spreading those touches around pretty evenly. But North Texas, like I said, gets a touchdown on that first drive. Army then Cale Helms throws a bad pitch to Noah Short on their first drive. It ends up being a fumble. North Texas recovers. They turn that into another touchdown. It's 14-0 at that point. Army again's got the ball. Quarterback Cale Helms on a run fumbles the ball. North Texas recovers it, and 2 plays later, guess what? We got another North Texas touchdown. It's 21-0 at that point. Army does answer back with running back Briggs Bartosh, who they said was like might not have even played in the game. Like there was some question whether he was going to dress or not. And yes, thankful for Army that he did, but he busted a big 75-yard touchdown run to get Army on the board. And then on the kickoff, like something like I guess you never really think about, but the North Texas, the returner, I forget who it was. Anyway, the sun was really bad. So he raised his hand. He was trying to block the sun. But what happens when you raise your hand? Like everybody thinks it's you're calling for a fair catch. It wasn't what he was doing, but anyway, that caused the penalty. And so North Texas gets the ball on the 2-yard line. North Texas goes for it on 4th and 1 at midfield. Messermaker throws it behind a wide open Mackenzie McGill. And that would have been a huge play, except Army, because that was a 4th and 1. They didn't get it. Army would have got the ball at midfield, but then Army got called for targeting on the play. The booth called it. It wasn't flagged on the field. The booth called down, said, "Hey, we got targeting." And so North Texas got to keep the ball. They got a couple more yards, and then they decided to go for it again on 4th and 6 from the 38-yard line. Mestamaker had a I don't remember what receiver it was. I just remember he threw it deep. The receiver was wide open. It would have been a touchdown, but he overthrew the guy on 4th and 6, and so Army gets the ball. And now we see Dwayne Coleman. Said Helms had the bad pitch, and mostly his fault. Why on that pitch? Why that was a fumble? Then he fumbled the ball himself, and so they said, "Okay, we've seen enough from you, Kale. We're going back to Dwayne Coleman." And man, like he kind of gave them a huge lift, brought them back. Man, got them to overtime, and then in overtime. Dwayne Coleman got knocked out. Helms comes back in. Army needs a touchdown to kind of send the game into double overtime, and Kale Helms overthrew the wide receiver in the end zone. And that was kind of game over. Man, it was an exciting game. North Texas had him, and then they let him back. When Dwayne Coleman came back in, it gave such a lift to the Army offense, and got them going and got to overtime. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward. I think if someone asked me today, do I think Dwayne Coleman is going to be good for the next game? I don't know. He had to come out there in overtime. Helms had to come in. And I feel like Army is this could be a thing all year long, right? Where we're going back and forth between the two guys, where they're kind of playing the hot hand. I mean, Dwayne Coleman was out. Helms had a heck of a game in his first start against Kansas State, leads them to that big win. And then he pretty much has the two fumbles, the two turnovers, or the primary factor in the two turnovers early in this game. And then they put Dwayne Coleman in, and he gave him such a lift, and then he got knocked out. Don't know how bad his injury is. So, if you're looking at the Army quarterbacks, stay tuned. Maybe we'll get some more news as the week progresses.
All right. Then Ball State at UConn. UConn pulls this one out 31-25. First quarter, UConn pins Ball State at the 2 and they are unable to move the ball. Nice punt return for UConn sets up a field goal as UConn struggled to move the ball. Skylar Bell show in the final possession of the first quarter. UConn would be up. In that final possession, he had 4 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown. Let's look at the third quarter. It starts with Ball State punt and then a UConn 14-play, 60-yard drive for a touchdown. They're now up 17-7. Ball State tacks on a field goal at 17-10. Moving into the fourth quarter, UConn has a 5-minute drive that Cam Edwards punches it in from 32 yards out. They're up 24-10. Ball State throws an INT. UConn goes 3 and out. Ball State 4th and 5 with about 6 minutes left, completes a 28-yard pass that almost goes for a touchdown. He's out at the 1, rolling right, slightly across the body. Quay Ashley punches it in, and they're able to go within 7. This one was exciting. Like I said, Ball State seemed to be out of it. UConn was kind of, having their, I don't want to say having their way, but they were in command of this game. And then, this fourth quarter, Ball State just kind of hung around. You got a 67-yard touchdown by Cam Edwards. That practically ends it 31-17. Ball State scores in just over 1 minute and gets the 2-point conversion. It's 31-25. UConn gets the onside kick. Then it gets a little chippy there at the end. You got offensive linemen, defensive linemen pushing each other. But like I said, interesting fourth quarter. UConn should have won the game by probably more, but it was that once Ball State threw the INT and UConn just went 3 and out, and then the Quay Ashley touchdown, like that. Just like I said, Ball State wouldn't go around. UConn just had a hard time, putting the clamps down. But yeah, UConn wins.
All right, this was probably the biggest game I was looking forward to this week. In terms of for my Old Dominion Monarchs, we played both Liberty and obviously we played James Madison. We're in the same conference, same division, in the same conference, and we played Liberty in Week 5. And so this game had my attention. Two Virginia schools as well, JMU versus Liberty. I wanted to see. The last time I watched JMU was against Louisville and they were doing the quarterback rotation. And then I had not had a chance to watch Liberty this season. So this game kind of got my full attention. I gotta say, like at the end of the day, like I wasn't overly impressed by either team. Liberty is not good. They are not good in the trenches, whether it's offensive line or defensive line. They are not good. And because of my impression of Liberty, like I wasn't like overly impressed with JMU because I felt like they should have won the game by more, been more dominant than they were. And this was a pretty close game up through the first half. Alonzo Barnett the third got the start. There was no quarterback rotation this week. It was all Alonzo Barnett, but he threw an interception in the end zone, which kind of that played a big part in terms of like the score. But and then like I said, it was a really, really close game. And then like I mentioned in the injury report, Vasco took a sack there at the end of the half, landed, he got basically they drove his non-throwing shoulder into the ground. And he did not play in the second half. His arm was in a sling. And so then we saw a rotation of Michael Merdinger and Ethan Hawke, the freshman. My personal opinion, like why didn't they just stick with one guy, was because I feel like the game plan was built around Ethan Vasco and Ethan Vasco's skill set, right? He's very much a dual threat quarterback. Merdinger is not a dual threat. That's not to say he's a pocket guy. He's a statue. He has functional mobility, and we saw it in the game, right? But he's not really a guy you're doing designed runs with per se. And so they would put Ethan Hawke in, if they were planning on like doing a design run. And so like, I don't know, when you do things like that, like that's just not JMU did it. And we saw how that worked out, right? Like you're like, it just feels like you're showing your hand before you hike the ball in terms of what to expect with the quarterbacks. And so that's when things kind of got out of hand in the second half. Liberty tied the game at 10 with a field goal, but like I said, you could kind of feel the momentum change when JMU won a 9-play, 81-yard drive that ended with a Wayne Knight 1-yard touchdown run. Liberty goes 3 and out, and then JMU has a 67-yard drive that eats up 6 minutes and is capped off by a 9-yard Alonzo Barnett read where he kept the ball, puts up JMU up 24-13, and then another Alonzo Barnett touchdown run put him up 31-13. The thing, like, we didn't see it up until this game, but Alonzo Barnett, and like I just said, he ran the ball. And the last time we saw him, it was Saluka in there for the running plays. But Alonzo Barnett looked fully healthy. He wasn't wearing a brace. Seems like a fast recovery to me, considering it was the last game of 2024 when he tore his ACL. But nonetheless, man, he looked healthy. Kind of looked like the Alonzo Barnett of old, so to speak, for JMU. And man, like it's things are shaping up for a big matchup between Old Dominion, a big showdown in the group of 5 between Old Dominion and James Madison coming up. I believe it's October 18th, I think. It's homecoming for James Madison, so that should be a good one. But yeah, JMU pulls it off and beats Liberty. And no idea how long Ethan Vasco is going to be out. I've heard some rumors that perhaps he broke his clavicle. That's 100% a rumor. That's not been confirmed anywhere. Like I said, all I know is he was in a sling on the sidelines. But if he's going to be out for a extended period of time, it's going to be gonna be bad news for a Liberty team that's only win has come against the FCS team.
When you talked about the health of Barnett, you can pay me no amount of money to make me not believe he didn't go to Clemson and visit those voodoo doctors who make everybody's ACLs magically better very quickly. Except for maybe this one's a little bit different because like he's performing well. Usually, you know, those Clemson voodoo doctors, there's still something going on with you know, their recovery. Thanks, Brett. Had it on there. Thank you for the kind words with the game reviews. All right, let's get into Louisiana at Eastern Michigan. This one was exciting, especially at the end. Louisiana opens the game with a 7-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. Noah Kim and Dante McMillan have a nice drive, passing the ball, running the ball at the end of the first quarter that ends with a Kim 2-yard touchdown run. We're tied at 7. Quarter 2 starts. Louisiana kicks a field goal, followed by a Eastern Michigan touchdown, fueled by Nick Devereaux catch for 36 yards on a 3rd and 11. He's down at the 2, and they punch it in for the 14-10 lead. Louisiana answers right back with a Bill Davis run of 45 yards for a touchdown. It's now 17-14 Louisiana. EMU gets a touchdown, and Louisiana misses a field goal before the half. Going into half, it's Eastern Michigan 21-17. Third quarter was all about field positioning, but Noah Kim's INT ended with a 35-yard touchdown return by Cortland Flowers to give Louisiana the 24-21 lead. Eastern Michigan runs the ball well to end the third and to start the fourth quarter with a 6-yard touchdown run by Dunlap. They're now up 28-24. Now, Louisiana goes 3 and out, and then an EMU field goal puts them up 7. We're now 31-24. Louisiana converts on a 3rd and 11 for 29 yards. A Beal to Sampson catch there. They go for it on 4th and 2 at the EMU 35 and throw a big interception. Caleb Dobbs with that interception. EMU can't move the ball. They have to punt it back. Louisiana throws another pick and sets up Eastern Michigan with good field position at the Louisiana 41. Again, can't move the ball. They go and they elect to try to kick the field goal to go up by 2 scores. They miss the 53-yard field goal. Louisiana takes advantage of that field position, scores in under 2 minutes. The field position, it's now tied at 31 apiece with 44 seconds left. EMU is pressing a little to score. A 27-yard pass from Kim to Joshua Long on a 3rd and 1 puts EMU at the Louisiana 29. A 5-yard run by McMillan puts them at the 29 and sets up for a 42-yard field goal. Coach got really upset because there was about 5 or 7 seconds left. I think it was 7 seconds left on the clock. Coach calls a timeout. It's 4th and 5. He was yelling, I didn't take a timeout. Why would I take a timeout? It's 4th and 5 and 7 seconds left. Louisiana didn't have any timeouts. So it's like, something could happen. He could, bobble the snap or whatever. And so he was livid. And after missing that 53-yard field goal, Kesslinger hits from 42 and EMU wins despite the little timeout mishap, 34-31.
I wonder, I don't know. I don't think either one of these. I didn't watch the game. I don't think either one of these teams are very good. It'll be. I think Eastern Michigan is probably better offensively than Louisiana. Louisiana just had so many losses between the offensive line, the quarterback, now the receiver Shelton Sampson. But the Eastern Michigan defense, yeah, they're rough.
Did you talk about the Sampson injury?
We did. The hamstring. Yeah, he's out 5 to 6 weeks. So, yeah. And then, like I said, and they lost their 2 offensive tackles, too, which now that's 4 of their top 5 offensive tackles that are gone. So, yeah, rough year ahead. Unfortunately, it looks like for the Raging Cajuns. All right, this game, man. This was a defensive battle, defensive struggle. Like I don't know, it wasn't. If you don't like defense, it was a great game to watch. Tucker Kilcrease got the start for Troy. He was bad. He stunk it up. They put in Uiale. He wasn't much better, and they seemed to like alternate those two back and forth. 9 combined first half punts, 1 Buffalo touchdown, and a Troy fumble. Buffalo with 6 sacks in the first half. And then kind of like, I don't know, like it felt like Buffalo was the better team. And I even like after the game and Buffalo loses, but I still feel like Buffalo was the better team. What happened was Taquan Robertson got knocked out of the game. And that just kind of changed it, man. When Taquan Robertson got knocked out and Gunnar Gray had to come in at quarterback, like it just seemed like, all they could do effectively was hand the ball off to Al-Jay Henderson. And, man, like you can imagine what the Troy defense was doing at that point. They're just really stacking the box. I mean, Al-Jay had some nice runs, but, man, like it's a lot to ask him to kind of – it's almost like they were single-handedly asking him from an offensive perspective anyway to carry the team to victory. And it wasn't good. Like I said, it felt like all Buffalo. Troy was pulling out all the stops. They had Ra Thomas on a double reverse, trying to throw a gadget touchdown, and he threw an interception there in the third quarter. And then all of a sudden, man, like Troy kind of got it going on offense. And they had back-to-back touchdown drives, brought them within 3. Buffalo went 3 and out with under 5 minutes to go. Troy scored a touchdown on that next possession to take the lead. There was 6 runs, 3 passes, only 1 completion, 20-yard touchdown run by Tay Meadows. And then Troy came from behind and took the game, man. Like, I don't know. It just once Taquan Robertson went out for Buffalo, that was kind of like all she wrote. It was like they were just playing to – the play calling was playing to not lose and instead of trying to play to win. And that's what they did. They lost the game. But, I mean, I still think Troy's the better team. I think Buffalo's the better team. I think that Troy defense is good, but, man, if they don't get Goose Crowder back at offense, it's going to be ugly. Those other quarterbacks they're not good. They're not good. And Troy's going to struggle on offense until they can get Goose Crowder back.
All right. Now let's take a look at some MACtion. We've got Toledo at Western Michigan. We're going to pick this one up in the second quarter where Western Michigan fumbles a punt with 1 minute left. Toledo gets the field goal. They're up 3-0 at the half. This was a surprising game. It was not on my radar of really games to watch, but this is honestly the second game that is involving Western Michigan this season that I'm not that interested in. North Texas was that other one. This is this where it's like, oh, I look up and, hey, North Texas is in some trouble. And then here, hey, Toledo's in some trouble. Opposite ends of the spectrum, points versus no points. But yeah, Toledo's going to lean on Chip Trainum as Tucker Gleason only threw for 80 yards in the game, had 2 interceptions. Chip had 26 carries for 153 yards and a touchdown. Toledo in the third scores on 2 Chip rushes. Chip had a 63-yard touchdown run. They're going up 10-0. Toledo scores another field goal to go up 13-0. Western has 2 big passes and a penalty to help them score a touchdown to cut the lead to 6. Western Michigan flips the field on a 67-yard drive. They couldn't convert on a 4th and 7 on the Toledo 16, but Toledo can't move the ball, which was the story of the day. They punt the ball back to Western Michigan, who scores a touchdown on their very next drive, fueled by a 43-yard pass on 4th and 10 from Lowry to Takleek Williams. They're now up 14-13. Toledo goes 3 and out. Western Michigan wins. Tucker Gleason stunk. Toledo falls to a winless Western Michigan in Kalamazoo. Wild game. Wild game.
It's, I don't know, like this is like people call it a class. I mean, I saw people on Twitter talking about it's a classic Jason Candle stinker. He does seem to have those, but like, man, like Tucker Gleason, like he is so inconsistent at quarterback. Like, and it's such a shame because like I feel like, they got Chip Trayanum, they got top end receivers, they have a really, really good defense. Like the thing they're missing is strong quarterback play, and Tucker Gleason, man, once again, like puts up a stinker. Just so inconsistent. Like, can you imagine like if Parker Navarro was on Toledo? Like they might be being talked about as like the college football playoff contender coming from the MAC, but like Tucker Gleason, man, I don't have faith in the guy to get it done, man. Like he's just so inconsistent. All right. This was kind of hailed as the big Conference USA matchup this week. You had Florida International coming off that big win in the Shula Bowl over Florida Atlantic, and then Delaware, kind of the surprise team thus far in Conference USA, and it wasn't much of a game. Delaware, like they won this game rather easily. For like first half was all Delaware. Kyrie Duplessis had a punt return for a touchdown. He was named the Conference USA Special Teams Player of the Week. Really, the only mistake was a Nick Minicucci interception. And FIU took a sack on third down. They hurried onto the field for a field goal attempt, to try to, get some points there at the half. They missed it, so it's 24-7 at half. We mentioned this earlier. Duplessis on a long catch on third down kind of came up a little bit gimpy. He was able to return. Third quarter, there was only 2 possessions in the second, and both teams kind of 8 clock there in the third quarter. 1 possession in the second half, under 5 minutes. 5:27, 6:33, 5:31, 7:31, 4:45. The Delaware offense, was rolling in the game, and Florida National never really seemed to get things going. Maybe they were still hung over from the big Shula Bowl win. I think it was their first Shula Bowl win, and I don't remember how many. You remember how many years it was?
Yeah, it's gosh, no, I don't remember the year.
But it's been a while. So maybe
2017, maybe. I don't.
They were having some hangover from that game, but man, yeah, Delaware won the game. They dominated the game, and they got the W. And a big conference win for Delaware. And who knows? Maybe we'll see them in the conference championship game.
I thought it was really odd, just wild with that second half and the third quarter. There's only 2 possessions. Like they ate up so much clock that each team had the ball once in that third quarter, and then you have 3 more possessions in the entire game. It was just like once all that time was ate up in the third quarter, there wasn't much time for a comeback. All right, let's move on to Arkansas State and Kennesaw State. Amari Odom, welcome. He had a great first half. He was 17 of 22 for 251 yards and 1 passing touchdown. He was 10 for 50 and 1 on the ground. Kennesaw was leaning on a great first quarter where they were up 21-0. This is how that first quarter went. Arkansas State punt, Kennesaw State touchdown, Arkansas State punt, Kennesaw touchdown, Arkansas State punt, Kennesaw touchdown, Arkansas State fumble. Like Kennesaw State just leaned on that first quarter. The D line just worked Arkansas State's O line. Arkansas State, though, was able to pull within 7 with about 15 minutes left, but only had 18 yards in their next 3 possessions, just unable to move the ball against Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State wins this one 28-21.
This was a shocker for me. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't have eyes on this game, but man, like, I thought this would be a get right game for Arkansas State, for Jalen Rayner, for Corey Rucker to get on track, and like, it just didn't happen. But it sounds like from talking with you earlier, Luke, like the Arkansas State offensive line is really, really bad.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of bad, I guess it was a good game in terms of like, scoring a competitive game, but this is two teams that are not good. Marshall at Middle Tennessee. Marshall gets the win 42-28, but they really kind of pulled away in that fourth quarter. The game kind of came down to third down efficiency. Marshall was 7 for 12, whereas Middle Tennessee was only 3 for 10 on third down. Carlos Del Rio Wilson had a big game, 16 for 22, 4 touchdowns, 22 rushing yards, and a touchdown on the ground. And like I said, it was 28-21 going into the fourth quarter. And then Marshall just kind of pulled away with 21 unanswered points. Middle Tennessee only had 22 yards on 12 plays in the fourth quarter, compared to Marshall's 32 plays for 208 yards and 21 points in the fourth quarter, with Marshall really leaning on the run, primarily Michael Allen Jr. there for the Thundering Herd, and then some timely passes to win the game. Again, two really bad teams, but as a Sun Belt guy, I was glad to see the Sun Belt get the win here over Conference USA. I think if you look on the week, I think they went 2-2, which is, I don't know, not good for the Sun Belt in my opinion. But kudos to Conference USA for getting their 2 wins.
All right, Nevada at Western Kentucky. Nevada led this game for a majority. Fourth quarter was the Lavelle Wright show. He had 46 yards and a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Nevada with an onside kick after a field goal. They're down 31-16, but Matthew Henry on this onside kick returns it for a touchdown. I can't remember what it was, like 50 some yards, 46 yards, whatever it was. Took it to the house, ended that. But like I said in my player of the week, had timely turnovers that just kept them around. I think those turnovers kept it at like 10-0, but it could have been really quick. It could have been 24-0, like within, I think it was all in the first, it would have been first half. Could have been 24-0 at one point, but a timely fumble recovery and interception in this one by Jalen Lewis. So that's the main reason why he won my player of the week, because of those timely turnovers. We could look at Nevada beating WKU in this one, but different story. Like I said, 31-26, Western Kentucky gets the W.
All right. If you like offense, this was a game to watch. Man, it was like neither team's defense could stop the other team. Boise State at Air Force, Mountain West Conference matchup. Boise State wins it 49-37. 8 plays of 10+ yards for Boise, and that was only only one play into the second quarter. Lots of big plays, and that just continued, man. The Boise State run game was dominant. Dylan Riley, every time I turned around, the dude's felt like he was rushing for a 50-yard touchdown. And then when they weren't feeding him the ball, it was Malik Sherrod busting off a big run. And then Air Force gets the ball, and it's Cade Harris in the pass game, getting a big, having a big play. And it was just, I don't know, it was kind of crazy. It's not what you expect from either team. You expect them Air Force wants to control the ball. They want to run the ball. They want to control it. Boise State's defense is usually really, really good. And that's probably the most puzzling thing to me this year is that Boise State defense, how bad they've been. Because they returned a lot of talent on that defense, but man, they just have not looked good, except for the game against the FCS opponent, Eastern Washington. As we mentioned, as Luke's player of the week, it was the Dylan Riley show. 19 carries, 174 yards, 5 total touchdowns. He had 2 catches for 84 yards. And it was the Cade Harris show for the Air Force offense. Yeah, man, like I don't know, like if somebody stops this Boise State running game, they're going to be in trouble. Which was what we saw against South Florida, right? They were able to kind of keep the running game in check, and Boise State wasn't able to do much. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting year for the Boise State Broncos in 2025.
All right. Now, talk about a surprise. Coastal Carolina at South Alabama, Sun Belt Conference game matchup. In the first, the Jags missed an opportunity to get 3 points. It's 4th and 4 at the 30. They have an incomplete pass. But at the end of the first, you kind of feel like South Alabama is starting to get things figured out. Quarter 3, different story. You got a 3 and out. Coastal scores a touchdown in 3 plays. First play for South Alabama is a bad INT. Then Coastal scores a touchdown. The Jags get a field goal. It's 21-14 Coastal at this point, and then things unravel in the fourth. You've got a missed field goal. They go on the 70-yard drive. South Alabama does. They miss a field goal. Coastal takes it down 80 yards for a touchdown. It's 28-17 now. Coastal. The Jags get a field goal. Coastal has to punt, but then the Jags throw an INT, and Coastal throws another or tacks on another field goal. They're up 31-20, and then the Jags fumble, and it's returned for a touchdown. Game's in the bag. Coastal wins this one 38-20. This Coastal team, I thought, was probably one of the worst teams in the FBS up to this point, and they did not play like that in this game at all. So that was nice to see. Obviously, South Alabama didn't play super well either, but I think this was more of Coastal, playing up.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, some people I've talked to, like, there was a faction that said, "Oh, South Alabama played god awful," and then there was another faction that said, "Well, Coastal finally figured out how to play offense." So I was kind of curious your thoughts, Luke. It sounds like you think like maybe it's a little bit of both.
It was a little bit of both, but I will. I mean, you talk about you. So you got a coaching decision in the first. You decide to not get a field goal, and then you go 3 and out. Defense. South Alabama's had a hard time tackling this year. It's been tackling has been rough. Then you throw an INT. Bishop Davenport's just having a hard time holding on to the ball. Like he just holds it loose, and sometimes he gets a fumble knocked out, or he's throwing an INT. He's having a rough start to the year. And like I said, they go on a nice drive, 70 yards, missed field goal. You're like, okay. But then Coastal takes it down for the touchdown, and then Jags throw another INT, and then it was a little bit of both. But I will say, of everything that I've seen this year, Coastal had the biggest jump from where they were to where they played this weekend, as opposed to where the Jags played this weekend, in my opinion.
Gotcha. All right. This was another big matchup I was looking forward to, and it didn't disappoint, but it wasn't much of a game. I felt like Louisiana Tech just really dominated Southern Miss. Baker got to start at quarterback for Louisiana Tech, and Eli Finley had a day, man. I want to say like it was the first 2 possessions, and Eli Finley already had over 100 yards receiving. Yeah, he had a heck of a game, the tight end for Louisiana Tech. And it's a good thing like that first thing. I felt like Louisiana Tech didn't do much in the second half of the game. They built up that lead there mostly in the first half, and that Louisiana Tech defense, man, they are really good. Which I don't want to say it's surprising, but they were good last year, but they lost a couple of pieces, especially on that defensive line from last year. So I didn't necessarily expect them to be as good, but I'm gonna tell you, like I think they're better than they were a year ago. They're led by Colby Fields. Their linebackers are really good. They have some good corners and safeties too, but Colby Fields is the leader on that defense. He had that big pick 6 interception that kind of killed any momentum Southern Miss was able to muster up, so to speak. And man, you know, I didn't see this one coming. I thought I thought Southern Miss would be able to pull it out. I thought at the very least it was going to be a close game, and it wasn't. I walked away super impressed from Louisiana Tech, and as I said earlier, if Louisiana Tech, you know, can become consistent on offense, you know, and you know, score points, like they could be the favorite in Conference USA because of the way that defense plays. So kudos to the Bulldogs, and in the future this will be a Sun Belt Conference matchup starting next year, a Sun Belt West division matchup. But kudos to Louisiana Tech getting the win over Southern Miss.
All right, UL Monroe at UTEP. All ULM in the first half. First quarter started with the UTEP driving down the field, but failed on a 4th and goal from the 4. ULM 3-play touchdown drive fueled by a 72-yard run by Dorian Lewis. I think he only had like 5, maybe 8 touches in the game. I think maybe he finished with like 78 yards. So like a lot of it came on that one run. UTEP answers back with a 1-play, 73-yard touchdown pass to Trayvon Tate. A missed UTEP field goal leads to a 2-play touchdown drive for Louisiana Monroe with a 37-yard pass to Jake Godfrey, and then a 40-yard touchdown run from McReynolds. First half is 24-7. The game's pretty much over at this point. Pack up the bags, turn off the TV. Third quarter, ULM tacks on a touchdown. It's now 31-10. Game over. Not so fast, everybody. UTEP has a big fourth quarter behind the arm of Malachi Nelson. Like, this was a huge fourth quarter. He had 127 yards passing and 2 touchdowns in under 4 minutes. He had a 44 and a 20-yard touchdown pass, both to Wadam Davis. 31-25. ULM with the ball, 6 minutes to go. They're up 31-25, like I just said. ULM keeps the ball on the ground for a first down. They're driving, but then they get a delay of game. It hurts them. They aren't able to get another first down. But UTEP, INT sets up ULM at the UTEP 30. ULM runs and doesn't go for the field goal, which was just baffling to me. All right, I'm trying to do the math here. We got 31-25. That is how many points? 6. You can kick the field goal and go up 9. There's a minute 13 left. You decide to go for it. Like, what? What are we doing? They fail on 4th and 4, and UTEP has a 1 minute 13 seconds to go to get this touchdown. But there's just too many incompletions that ate up time. And then, you know, you throw it, INT seals it. Honestly, the INT didn't even matter. It just, they ate up so much time in people developing routes and stuff. ULM wins this one, but that was just odd at that point, like to not even go up 2 scores and just go for it on 4th. Gave him an opportunity, especially with how Malachi Nelson had played in that 4th quarter. But this one, UL Monroe squeaks one out, 31-25.
What looked like another big matchup in the G5. We got UTSA at Colorado State. UTSA ends up winning 17-16. It was an ugly game. It was ugly. You know, I think Luke in our comments, Luke just put penalties. Yeah, it was like, I tell you what this game reminded me of, and not in terms of like I would say it reminded me of some Boise State games from last year. And the reason why I say that is because Ashton Jeanty single-handedly won Boise State some games last year. Well, in this case, I'm talking about Robert Henry Jr., and he single-handedly won this game for UTSA. You look at all the advanced metrics, Colorado State should have won the game. But, you know, the best player on the field was on UTSA, and that was Robert Henry Jr. We saw, you know, Braden Fowler-Nicolosi I talked about earlier. We saw him get replaced in the game by Jackson Brousseau. seemed to give the offense a little bit of a lift. One thing we haven't really mentioned about when we talked about this quarterback competition, and that's Taj Bullock. So like he's being used as a wildcat quarterback in the red zone essentially. So whether it's Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, or Jackson Brousseau, they're coming out, and then Taj Bullock's going in. Robert Henry had the 74-yard catch. He had 2 70-plus yard runs. Like I said, he single-handedly won this game for UTSA, and that's why he was my offensive player of the week. 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kudos to Robert Henry for beating the Colorado State Rams.
I believe he also leads the NCAA in rushing yards. I could be wrong.
I think he did. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
All right. Fresno State at Hawaii, Mountain West Conference matchup. Everyone had this on their bingo card. It's 2-0 Hawaii with 2 minutes in the first half. Everyone had that, right?
It was a defensive battle, man. Oh, my God.
And then there's an Otis fumble recovery for a touchdown. They reviewed it. I don't know how many times I saw it. I was like, all right, yep, that's going to be overturned. It's upheld. It's now 9-0. Fresno scores before the half. It's 9-7. Let's just move on to the fourth quarter. Hawaii hit a field goal late in the third to make it 15-13. But then Fresno's barely moves the ball, but eats up over 5 minutes of the clock. A Fresno State penalty puts them back, and they try a 54-yard field goal. They miss. Now, this is that. I was trying to set it up. I got a little bit wrong here. I said, let's move over to the fourth quarter. I talked about a little bit of the third quarter. We're in the fourth quarter now. Hawaii INT gives Fresno the ball. Great field possession. Hamilton was able to return an interception 42 yards to the Hawaii 12. And like you said, this defensive struggle, they're having a hard time moving the ball. They settle for a field goal. Now it's 16-15 with Fresno leading. Hawaii's driving, but Kavion Thunderbird INT was huge. He takes it 59 yards to the house. Now Fresno State up 23-15. Hawaii's looking to respond and move the ball, but the drive stalls. Fresno also unable to move the ball. Hawaii's down 8, 3:06 to go. Now, I can't remember which game we were talking about earlier, Justice, but you're like, I think it was maybe the Tulsa game. You're like, oh, I'm nervous. Like, they're going to let it go.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is about Alejado, but I mean, he's not playing well. Throwing a lot of INTs the last couple of weeks. But honestly, when he gets the ball, I'm like, all right, they're going to win it. Like, it's a different, what you're witnessing is not good in terms of there's a lot of interceptions, but he gets that ball and it's just a different feeling. Like I said, okay, Hawaii's down 8, 3:06 to go. I'm like, all right, they got it. Hawaii's got it. They get a first down, then a pass interference. Alejado gets sacked. It's an incomplete, and they have to go for it. 4th and 8, Fresno 39-yard line. Alejado runs for a first down. It's now 3rd and 2 at the Fresno 10 with 10 seconds to go. Touchdown by Blaze.
Okay.
Yeah, but they failed to get the 2-point conversion. Fresno State holds on to win, and they win this one. What was it? 25-23? Is that what it was? Or 23-21, I think it was.
Yeah.
So
there's been a lot of talk about what Fresno State was doing to Alejado, going after his ankles. Dirty.
This is a heated rivalry.
It's a big rivalry, right? It is a defense struggle, defensive battle. Neither offense really did much in the game. It was not a pretty game, especially when it's 2:30 a.m. my time. I didn't make it to the very end. I made it to the point where they Fresno State missed that field goal, and then I fell asleep. But man, defensive struggle. Both defenses were impressive. But neither offense looked good in the game.
All right.
That's gonna do it for our week 4 preview. Tune in next week. Luke will be solo next week. I'm out of town, but if you're still with us, thank you. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. On X, give us a like, a follow, a retweet. If you're listening on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, please subscribe and leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. So grateful for everyone's support. Thanks for hanging in there with us each and every week. Be sure to join us next week as Luke will go over what happened in week 5, and we look forward to what's coming in week 6 and bring you up to date, as always, on the latest news and happenings in the world of G5 college football. And until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.